Well, great. I'm just doing this as a test to see if my microphone even works. I'm hoping it does. Um, beer don't get in the way. Volume. Um, yeah, I was expecting that by now I'd be going live on the non-sequitur show. They told me it would be my time, 10 a.m. I've just been sitting here waiting and nothing's happening. So I don't know what the story is. So I just thought I'd, as I say, test out my mic. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? I don't want it in my face if I can avoid it. And the table's just a little bit over there. Also, it's going to be interesting. G'day, Ron. How's it going? Seems I was told 10 a.m. might have been a little bit premature. It says they're still waiting another 3 hours on the non-sequitur show. So, can you hear me fine? That's pretty much what I'm doing. A bit of a mic test and waiting patiently. Awesome. Thanks, mate. Yeah, so I'm a little bit disappointed. I was up nice and early this morning. I actually saw my opponent. He calls himself Fight the Flat Earth, otherwise known as Craig, the Scottish git. And he was going live himself, looking for a flat earther to debate, and kept saying, "Oh no, I wants to come talk to me, boo-hoo-hoo." And so I was like, "Yeah, well, just wait, mate. 10 a.m. and we'll have our little chat." And seems, oh well, might be till about midday now. So I just sit and be patient. Good things come to those who wait. Brought a little book, and I was looking for a passage in it, but probably won't find it. But you never know. I'm going to read chapter 11 anyway, because this is pre-Jesus. It says it's Elihu's lessons, Buddhism and the precepts of Buddha, the mysteries of Egypt. Again, Elihu taught, he said, the Indian priest became corrupt. Brahm was forgotten in the streets. The rights of men were trampled in the dust. And then a mighty master came, a Buddha of enlightenment, who turned away from wealth and all the honours of the world and found the silence in the quiet groves and caves. He was blessed. He preached the gospel of a higher life and taught man how to honour man. He had no doctrine of the gods to teach, he just knew man. And so his creed was justice, love, and righteousness. I quote for you a few of many of the helpful words which Buddha spoke. Hate is a cruel word. If men hate you, regard it not. If you can turn the hate of men to love, and mercy and goodwill, and mercy is as large as all the heavens. And there is good enough for all. With good, destroy the bad. With generous deeds, make avarice ashamed. With truth, make straight the crooked lines that error draws. For error is but truth distorted, gone astray. And pain will follow him who speaks or acts with evil thoughts, as does the wheel the foot of him who draws the cart. He is a greater man who conquers self than he who kills 1,000 men in war. He is a noble man who is himself what he believes that other men should be. Return to him who does you wrong your purest love, and he will cease from doing wrong. For love will purify the heart of him who is beloved, as truly as it purifies the heart of him who loves. The words of Buddha are recorded in the Indian sacred books. Attend to them, for they are part of the instructions of the Holy Breath. The land of Egypt is the land of secret things. The mysteries of the ages lie locked bound in our temples and our shrines. The masters of all times and climes come here to learn, and when your sons have grown to manhood, they will finish all their studies in Egyptian schools. But I have said enough. Tomorrow at the rising of the sun, we meet again. Now when the morning sun arose, the masters and their pupils all were in the sacred grove. Salome was the first to speak. She said, "Behold the sun. It manifests the power of God, who speaks to us through sun and moon and stars, through mountain, hill, and vale, through flower and plant and tree. God sings for us through bird and harpsichord and human voice. He speaks to us through wind and rain and thunder roll. Why should we not bow down and worship at his feet? God speaks to hearts apart, and hearts apart must speak to him, and this is prayer. It is not prayer to shout at God, to stand or sit or kneel and tell him all about the sins of men. It is not prayer to tell the Holy One how great he is, how good he is, how strong and how compassionate. God is not man to be brought up by praise of man. Prayer is the ardent wish that every way of life be light, that every act be crowned with good, that every living thing be prospered by our ministry. A noble deed, a helpful word is prayer, a fervent and effectual prayer. The fount of prayer is in the heart. By thoughts, not words, the heart is carried up to God, where it is blessed. Then let us pray. They prayed, but not a word was said. But in that holy silence, every heart was blessed. Anyway, just thought I'd have a little reading to test the microphone and have a bit of a beer. Oh yeah. I'll keep looking for that chapter and come back again shortly and read it. There's another part in here that I think is worthy of reading out loud too while I'm at it. Jesus and Lamas among the Sudras and Viziers. Now Jesus with his friend Lamas went through all the regions of Orissa and the valley of the Ganges, seeking wisdom from the Sudras and the Viziers and the masters. Benares of the Ganges was a city rich in culture and in learning. Here the two Rabbonis tarried many days. And Jesus sought to learn the Hindu art of healing and became the pupil of Udaka, greatest of the Hindu healers. Udaka taught the uses of the waters, plants, and earths, of heat and cold, sunshine and shade, of light and dark. He said, "The laws of nature are the laws of health, and he who lives according to these laws is never sick. Transgression of these laws is sin, and he who sins is sick. He who obeys the laws maintains an equilibrium in all his parts, and thus ensures true harmony. And harmony is health, while discord is disease. That which produces harmony in all the parts of man is medicine, ensuring health. The body is a harpsichord, and when its strings are too relaxed or are too tense, the instrument is out of tune, and man is sick. Now everything in nature has been made to meet the wants of man, so everything is found in medical arcanes. And when the harpsichord of man is out of tune, the vast expanse of nature may be searched for remedy. There is a cure for every ailment of the flesh. Of course, the will of man is remedy supreme, and by the vigorous exercise of will, man may make tense a cord that is relaxed, or may relax one that is too tense, and thus may heal himself. When man has reached the place where he has faith in God, in nature, and himself, he knows the word of power. His word is balm for every wound, is cure for all the ills of life. The healer is the man who can inspire faith. The tongue may speak to human ears, but souls are reached by souls that speak to souls. He is the forceful man whose soul is large, and it can enter into souls, inspiring hope in those who have no hope, and faith in those who have no faith in God, in nature, nor in man. There is no universal balm for those who tread the common walks of life. 1,000 things produce inharmony and make men sick. 1,000 things may tune the harpsichord and make men well. That which is medicine for one is poison for another. So one is healed by what would kill another one. A herb may heal the one, a drink of water may restore another one, the mountain breeze may bring to life one seeming past all help. A coal of fire or bit of earth may cure another one, and one may wash in certain streams or pools and be made whole. The virtue from the hand or breath may heal 1,000 more, but love is queen. Thought, reinforced by love, is God's great sovereign balm. But many of the broken chords in life, and discords that so vex the soul, are caused by evil spirits of the air that men see not, that lead men on through ignorance to break the laws of nature and of God. These powers act like demons, and they speak, they rend the man, they drive him to despair. But he who is a healer, true, is master of the soul, and can, by force of will, control these evil ones. Some spirits of the air are master spirits and are strong, too strong for human power alone. But man has helpers in the higher realms that may be importuned. They will help to drive the demons out. And what this great physician said, this is the sum. Jesus bowed his head in recognition of the wisdom of this master soul and went his way. That wasn't actually the passage I intended to read, but damn it, it's really hot here. And I are getting a dry mouth. So, happy Sundays. Merry Christmas. Let every day be Christmas in this heavenly realm and this golden age. Where are you going to go? Up there, I imagine. Okay. I might even take the glasses off. Relax the eyes a little. Chapter 22. That was chapter 23, so we're going backwards here. Among the priests of Jagannath was one who loved the Jewish boy. Lamaz Brahmas was the name by which the priest was known. One day, as Jesus and Lamaz walked alone in Plaza Jagannath, Lamaz said, "My Jewish master, what is truth?" And Jesus said, "Truth is the only thing that changes not. In all the world there are two things. The one is truth, the other falsehood is. And truth is that which is, and falsehood that which seems to be. Now truth is aught and has no cause, and yet is the cause of everything. Falsehood is naught, and yet it is the manifest of aught. Whatever has been made will be unmade. That which begins must end. All things that can be seen by human eyes are manifests of aught, are naught, and so must pass away. But things we see are but reflexes just appearing, while the ethers vibrate so and so, and when conditions change, they disappear. The holy breath is truth, and that which was, and is, and evermore shall be, it cannot change nor pass away." Lamaz said, "You answer well. Now, what is man?" And Jesus said, "Man is the truth and falsehood strangely mixed. Man is the breath made flesh, so truth and falsehood are conjoined in him, and when they strive, and naught goes down, and man as truth abides." Again, Lamaz asked, "What do you say of power?" And Jesus said, "It is a manifest. It is the result of force. It is but naught. It is illusion, nothing more. Force changes not, but power changes as the ethers change. Force is the will of God and is omnipotent, and power is that will in manifest, directed by the breath. There is power in the winds, a power in the waves, a power in the lightning stroke, a power in the human arm, a power in the eye. The ethers cause these powers to be. Thought of Elohim, of angel, man, or other thinking thing directs the force. When it has done its work, the power is no more." Again, Lamaz asked, "Of understanding, what have you to say?" And Jesus said, "It is the rock on which man builds himself. It is the gnosis of the aught and of the naught, of falsehood and of truth. It is the knowledge of the lower self, the sensing of powers of man himself." And Lamaz asked, "Of wisdom, what have you to say?" And Jesus said, "It is the consciousness that man is aught, that God and man are one, that naught is naught, that power is but illusion, that heaven and earth and hell are not above, around, below, but in, which in light of aught becomes the naught, and God is all." Lamaz asked, "Pray, what is faith?" And Jesus said, "Faith is the surety of the omnipotence of God and man, the certainty that man will reach the deific life. Salvation is a ladder reaching from the heart of man to heart of God. It has 3 steps. Belief is first, and this is what man thinks, perhaps, is truth. And faith is next, and this is what man knows is truth. Fruition is the last, and this is the man himself, the truth. Belief is lost in faith, and in fruition, faith is lost, and man is saved when he has reached deific life, when he and God are one." I love this book. It's a really good book. You can open it up just about anywhere, find any passage to read, and find something that just blows your mind. which I just did. So what the heck? Killing time and waiting for a reminder to have a little chat to some people about the truth of the earthly realm we live upon. How the spin is a lie. The idea of us being on a spinning ball going around the sun. Well, that's the sun. 12 disciples out of 12 houses of the zodiac, if you wish, constellations. The ever faithful ones who remain constant in adoration of the sun. My phone just buzzed. I'll check that. Maybe it's a notification. Fight the planet challenge to all. He booted himself off his own chat. Doesn't look like it's anything too important. Maybe it was in emails. Social, perhaps. Nothing new there. Oh, sometimes the phone just buzzes randomly for no particular reason. Let us pray. Chapter 127. I know it's a sin to praise your own beard. Hey, are you warming up your bejesus again? G'day, Pete. Yeah, mate, I'm just having a bit of a read through the Aquarian Gospel because I was expecting to be on the live debate by now, and it appears they got their those things called again? Time bloody. Oh God, I'm going to do great in this one, aren't I? I can't even think of the word. Time zones. Day up for a minute there. They didn't get their time zones right, so it looks as though it's going to be more about midday today instead of 10 a.m. So this one is, as I said, chapter 127. Now Jesus took the 12 and with them crossed the sea at night and came unto the borders of Decapolis, that he might find a secret place where, all alone, he could reveal to them the things to come. They went into a mountain pass and spent 3 days in prayer. Then Jesus said, Behold, the time is near when I will walk with you in flesh no more. Lo, I have taught that he who counts his life of so much worth, if he would give it, not in willing sacrifice to save his brother man, is worthy not to enter into life. Lo, I am come as pattern for the sons of men, and I have not refrained from helpfulness. When I had passed the 7 tests in Heliopolis, I consecrated life and all I had to save the world. In the Judean wilderness, I fought the strongest foes of men, and there I reaffirmed my consecration to the service of my fellow men. In troubles and in trials, I have wavered not. When false accusers came, I answered not. God gave the saving word to me, and I have often spoken it and healed the sick, drove unclean spirits out, and raised the dead. And I've shown you how to speak the word, and I have given you the word. And in just a little while, we turn our faces towards Jerusalem. And one of you who hear me now will then betray me into wicked hands. The scribes and Pharisees will bring false charges up and hale me into court, and by consent of Rome I will be crucified. Then Peter said, My Lord, it shall not be. The Roman soldiers will tread on 12 dead men before they reach our Lord. But Jesus said, The Saviour of the world cannot resist. I came to save the world. I've taken up your names before the highest courts of heaven, and you have been confirmed as saviours of the world. And not a name excepting that of him who shall betray will ever be disgraced. I go my way, and though my flesh shall pass, my soul will stand beside you all the way to guide and bless. And wicked men will seize you in the streets, and as you kneel in prayer, will charge you with some legal crime, and think they serve their God by putting you to death. But falter not. The load will heavy be, but with the consciousness of duty done, the peace of God will lift the load, dispel the pain, and light the way. And we will meet where carnal executioners come not. There we will serve the cruel men who in their ignorance had tortured us to death. Can we prevent this outrage and this slaughter of our lives? If not, we are but creatures of the ebb and flow of carnal things. it would not be a sacrifice of life. But we are masters of the things of time. Lo, we can speak, and all the spirits of the fire, water, earth, and air will stand in our defence. We can command, and many legions of the angel world would come and strike our enemies to earth. But it is best that not a power of heaven or earth should come to our relief, and it is best that even God should veil his face and seem to hear us not. As I am pattern unto you, so you are patterns for the human race. We show by non-resistance that we give our lives in willing sacrifice for man. But my example will not end with death. My body will be laid within a tomb, in which no flesh is lain, symbolic of the purity of life in death. And in the tomb I will remain 3 days in sweet communion with the Christ, and with my Father God and Mother God. And then, symbolic of the ascent of the soul to higher life, my flesh within the tomb will disappear, will be transmuted into higher form, and in the presence of you all, I will ascend to God. Then Jesus and the 12 went to a village by the sea. Well, let's see. Zones. There's actually 4 people watching now. Cool as. So I'm still waiting for a notification. I've set a reminder notice for the non-saboteur shows. Hopefully when something comes up. Lit reading, bro. Cheers, Dominic. How you doing, mate? God is great. What is the word? The word is the living word of the living God through living men. Now, I was looking for a particular chapter here, and I just turned to page 33. Happy Sabbath. Right, happy Sunday. Cheers. And so this is when in the early childhood days of Jesus. The home of Joseph was on Marmion Way in Nazareth. Here Mary taught her son the lessons of Elihu and Salome. And Jesus greatly loved the Vedic hymns and the Avesta, but more than all he loved to read the Psalms of David and the pungent words of Solomon. The Jewish books of prophecy were his delight, and when he reached his 7th year, he needed not the books to read, for he had fixed in memory every word. Joachim and his wife, grandparents of child Jesus, made a feast in honor of the child, and all their near of kin were guests. And Jesus, let me take these off for a second. I get leaky eyes sometimes. It's something I inherited from my grandmother. Jesus stood before the guests and said, I had a dream, and in my dream I stood before a sea, upon a sandy beach. The waves upon the sea were high, a storm was raging on the deep. Someone above gave me a wand. I took the wand and touched the sand, and every grain of sand became a living thing, and the beach was all a mass of beauty and of song. I touched the waters at my feet, and they were changed to trees and flowers and singing birds, and everything was praising God. And someone spoke. I did not see the one who spoke. I heard the voice which said, There is no death. Grandmother Anna loved the child. She laid her hand on Jesus' head and said, I saw you stand beside the sea. I saw you touch the sand and waves. I saw them turn to living things, and then I knew the meaning of the dream. The sea of life rolls high. The storms are great. The multitude of men are idle, listless, waiting, like dead sand upon the beach. Your wand is truth. With this you touch the multitudes, and every man becomes a messenger of holy light and life. You touch the waves upon the sea of life. Their turmoils cease. The very winds become a song of praise. There is no death, because the wand of truth can change the driest bones to living things and bring the loveliest flowers from stagnant ponds and turn the most discordant notes to harmony and praise. Joachim said, My son, today you pass the 7th milestone of your way of life, for you are 7 years of age, and we will give to you, as a remembrance of this day, whatever you desire. Choose that which will afford you most delight. I know it's coming here. And Jesus said, I do not want a gift, for I am satisfied. If I could make a multitude of children glad upon this day, I would be greatly pleased. Now there are many hungry boys and girls in Nazareth who would be pleased to eat with us this feast and share with us the pleasures of this day. The richest gift that you can give to me is your permission to go out and find those needy ones and bring them here that they may feast with us. Joachim said, "'Tis well. Go out and find the needy boys and girls and bring them here. We will prepare enough for all." And Jesus did not wait. He ran. He entered every dingy hut and cabin of the town. He did not waste his words. He told his mission everywhere. And in a little time, 103 score of happy, ragged boys and girls were following him up army and way. The guests made way. The banquet hall was filled with Jesus' guests, and Jesus and his mother helped to serve. And there was food enough for all, and all were glad. And so the birthday gift of Jesus was a crown of righteousness. God. Can't help it, man. Jeez. I think I might go offline for a little while. Leaky eye syndrome is getting the best of me. Every time I read that book, it just brings tears of joy. G'day, tinfoil hat. Just does it to me every time. No, Grolsch bottle, homebrew. The sacrifices you have to make to get a decent bottle. You gotta drink the Grolsch. Anyway, I've got a decent bottle collection now, so I don't have to drink anymore. If anybody would like one, I'd be happy to send you one for Christmas if you're happy to pay for the postage. My PayPal is ancients@hotmail.com. That's ancients, just spelled like ancient with an S. SH. And I'd be happy to send you one. Postage is however much generosity you feel like giving me to make it a Merry Christmas. And don't forget to include your address so I can try and package one up in some foam so it gets there. Good and fresh and intact, not broken. Just a bit useless then. I can't play guitar on this chair, and I can't play it without a pick. Oh, there's a pick. I just sing a song to get over it, and then I'll go back and read another chapter. I don't know how this microphone's going to work. In the way, isn't it? I don't believe in an interventionist God. I know, darling, that you do. But if I did, I would kneel down and ask him not to intervene when it came to you, not to touch a hair on your head, to leave you as you are. And if he felt he had to direct you into my arms, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms. thousands of angels. But looking at you, I wonder if that is true. That if I did, I would summon them together and ask them to watch over you. To each burn a candle for you, to make bright and clear your path, and to walk like Christ in grace and love, and guide you into my arms, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms. But I believe in love. I know, darling, you do too. And I believe in some kind of path that we can walk down, me and you. So keep your candles burning, make a journey bright and pure, that she will keep returning always and forevermore. Into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms. I relieved a bit of nervous pressure. Nick Cave. Yeah, it's a good song. Eh? Hello, Sandra. Cheers. Good thing I brought the tissues with me. Eh? Excuse me for a second. There goes my earplug. Better whack that back in. Alrighty, so I'm still just killing time, waiting for the non sequitur show. I can talk with a little boy called Craig, all the way from Bonnie, Scotland. And in the meantime, I've just got this book here, which I've just been reading random passages from. Pardon me. Any Aussie Osborne? Nah, no Aussie Osborne, mate. I can do some Cat Stevens. I've already read that bit. When do I open that for that one again? Let me just bring this chair a little bit closer to the microphone. Thanks, guys. Well, I opened it up to page 73 this time, so we're just doing random readings while we're killing time, and hopefully you'll find some wisdom and everything. Genesis 1, Ross. How about genius? Just kidding. And Jesus came to Egypt land, and all was well. He tarried not upon the coast. He went at once to Zone, Z-O-A-N, the zone we were talking about earlier, home of Elihu and Salome, who 25 years before had taught his mother in their sacred school. And there was joy when met these three. When last the son of Mary saw these sacred groves, he was a babe. And now a man grown strong by buffetings of every kind, a teacher who had stirred the multitudes in many lands. And Jesus told the aged teachers all about his life, about his journeyings in foreign lands, about the meetings with the masters and about his kind receptions by the multitudes. Elihu and Salome heard his story with delight. They lifted up their eyes to heaven and said, Our Father God, let now thy servants go in peace, for we have seen the glory of the Lord, and we have talked with him, the messenger of love, of the covenant of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Through him shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Through him, Emmanuel. And Jesus stayed in Zone many days, and then went forth unto the city of the sun, that men call Heliopolis, and sought admission to the temple of the sacred brotherhood. The council of the brotherhood convened, and Jesus stood before the Hierophant. He answered all the questions they were asked with clearness and with power. The Hierophant exclaimed, Rabboni of the rabbinate, why come you here? Your wisdom is the wisdom of the gods. Why seek for wisdom in the halls of men? And Jesus said, In every way of earth life I would walk. In every hall of learning I would sit. The heights that any man has gained, these I would gain. What any man has suffered, I would meet, that I may know the griefs, the disappointments, and the sore temptations of my brother man, that I may know him to secure those in need, that I may know just how to secure those in need. I pray you, brothers, let me go into your dismal crypts, and I would pass the hardest of your tests. The master said, Take then the vow of secret brotherhood. And Jesus took the vow of secret brotherhood. Again the master spoke. He said, The greatest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths. You shall reach the greatest depths. The guide then led the way, and in the fountain Jesus bathed. And when he had been clothed in proper garb, he stood again before the Hierophant. The master took down from the wall a scroll, on which was written down the number and the name of every attribute and character. He said, The circle is the symbol of the perfect man, and 7 is the number of the perfect man. The Logos is the perfect word, that which creates, that which destroys, and that which saves. This Hebrew master is the Logos of the Holy One, the circle of the human race, the 7 of time. And in the record book, the scribe wrote down, The Logos circle 7, and thus was Jesus known. The master said, The Logos will give heed to what I say. No man can enter into light until he has found himself. Go forth and search until you have found your soul, and then return. The guide led Jesus to a room in which the light was faint and mellow, like the light of early dawn. The chamber walls were marked with mystic signs, with hieroglyphs and sacred texts. And in this chamber Jesus found himself alone, and he remained for many days. He read the sacred texts, thought out the meaning of the hieroglyphs, and sought the import of the master's charge to find himself. A revelation came. He got acquainted with his soul. He found himself. Then he was not alone. One night he slept, and at the midnight hour, a door that he had not observed was opened, and a priest in sombre garb came in and said, My brother, pardon me for coming in at this unseemly hour, but I have come to save your life. You are the victim of a cruel plot. The priests of Heliopolis are jealous of your fame, and they have said that you shall never leave these gloomy crypts alive. The high priests do not go forth to teach the world, and you are doomed to temple servitude. Now, if you would be free, you must deceive these priests, must tell them you are here to stay for life. And then, when you have gained all that you wish to gain, I will return, and by a secret way will lead you forth, that you may go in peace. And Jesus said, My brother man, would you come here to teach deceit? Am I within these holy walls to learn the wiles of vile hypocrisy? Nay, man, my Father scorns deceit, and I am here to do his will. Deceive these priests? Not while the sun shall shine. What I have said, that I have said. I will be true to them, to God, and to myself. And then the tempter left, and Jesus was alone again. But in a little time a white-robed priest appeared and said, Well done, the Logos has prevailed. This is the trial chamber of hypocrisy. And then he led the way, and Jesus stood before the judgment seat. And all the brothers stood. The Hierophant came forth and laid his hand on Jesus' head, and placed within his hands a scroll on which was written just one word, sincerity. And not a word was said. The guide again appeared and led the way, and in a spacious room, replete with everything a student craves, was Jesus bade to rest and wait. This is how Jesus became the Christ. So now he reaches the second brotherhood. So I think we shouldn't speak in haste when we talk about the Freemasons and their degrees of learning either. I think they're there for a reason. They have wisdom which those with eyes can see and ears can hear. The Logos did not care to rest. He said, "Why wait in this luxurious room? I need not rest. My Father's work upon me presses hard. I would go on and learn my lessons all. If there are trials, let them come, for every victory over self gives added strength." And then the guide led on, and in a chamber dark as night was Jesus placed and left alone, and days were spent in this deep solitude. And Jesus slept, and in the dead of night a secret door was opened, and in priest's attire 2 men came, each carried in his hand a little flickering lamp. Approaching Jesus, one spoke out and said, "Young man, our hearts are grieved because of what you suffer in these fearful dens, and we have come as friends to bring you light and show you the way to liberty. We once, like you, were in these dens confined, and thought that through these weird, uncanny ways we could attain the blessedness and power. But in a luckful moment, we were undeceived, and making use of all our strength, we broke our chains, and then we learned that all this service is corruption in disguise. These priests are criminals just hid away. They boast in sacrificial rites. They offer to their gods and burn them while alive, poor birds and beasts, yea, children, women, men. And now they keep you here, and at a certain time may offer you in sacrifice. We pray you, brother, break your chains. Come, go with us, accept of freedom while you may." And Jesus said, "Your little tapers show the light you bring. Pray, who are you? The words of man are worth no more than is the man himself. These temple walls are strong and high. How gained you entrance to this place?" The man replied, "Beneath these walls are many hidden ways, and we who have been priests spent months and years within these dens, know all of them." "Then you are traitors," Jesus said. "A traitor is a fiend. He who betrays another man is never man to trust. If one has only reached the plane of treachery, he is a lover of deceit, and will betray a friend to serve his selfish self. Behold, you man, of whatsoever you be, your words fall lightly on my ears. Could I prejudge these 100 priests, turn traitor to myself and them, because of what you say when you confess your treachery? No man can judge for me, and if I judge till testimony all it is in, I might not judge aright. Nay, amen. But whatsoever way you came, return. My soul prefers the darkness of the grave to little flickering lights like these you bring. My conscience rules. What these, my brothers, have to say, I'll hear, and when the testimony all is in, I will decide. You cannot judge for me, nor I for you. Begone, you men, begone, and leave me to this charming light, for while the sun shines not, within my soul there is a light surpassing that of sun or moon." Then, with an angry threat that they would do him harm, the wily tempters left, and Jesus was again alone. Again the white-robed priest appeared and led the way, and Jesus stood again before the Hierophant. And not a word was said, but in his hands the master placed a scroll in which the word suggestive, justice, was inscribed. And Jesus was the master of the phantom forms of prejudice and of treachery. The Logos waited 7 days and then was taken to the Hall of Fame, a chamber rich in furnishings and lighted up with gold and silver lamps. The colours of its ceilings, decorations, furnishings, and walls were blue and gold. Its shelves were filled with books of master minds. The paintings and the statues were the works of highest art. And Jesus was entranced with all this elegance and these manifests of thought. He read the sacred books and sought the meanings of the symbols and of the hieroglyphs. And when he was absorbed in deepest thought, a priest approached and said, "Behold the glory of this place. My brother, you are the highly blessed. Few men of earth so young have reached such heights of fame. Now, if you do not waste your life and search for hidden things that men can never comprehend, you may be founder of a school of thought that will ensure you endless fame. For your philosophy is deeper far than that of Plato, and your teachings please the common people more than those of Socrates. Why seek for mystic light within these antiquated dens? Go forth and walk with men and think with men, and they will honour you. And after all, these weird initiations may be myths, and your Messiah hopes are base illusions of the hour. I would advise you to renounce uncertain things and choose the course that leads to certain fame." And thus the priest, a demon in disguise, sung siren songs of unbelief, and Jesus meditated long and well on what he said. The conflict was a bitter one, for king ambition is a sturdy foe to fight. For 40 days the higher wrestled with the lower self, and then the fight was won. Faith rose triumphant. Unbelief was not. Ambition covered up his face and fled away, and Jesus said, "The wealth, the honour, and the fame of earth are but the baubles of an hour. When the short span of earthly life has all been measured out, man's bursting baubles will be buried with his bones. Yea, what a man does for his selfish self will make no markings on the credit side of life. The good that men for other men shall do becomes a ladder strong on which the soul may climb to wealth, and power and fame of God's own kind that cannot pass away. Give me the poverty of men, the consciousness of duty done in love, the approbation of my God, and I will be content." And then he lifted up his eyes to heaven and said, "My Father God, I thank thee for this hour. I ask not for the glory of thyself. I fain would be a keeper of thy temple gates and serve my brother man." Again was Jesus called to stand before the Hierophant. Again no word was said, but in his hands the master placed a scroll, which was written, "Faith." And Jesus bowed his head in humble thanks, then went his way. So now we come to the fourth brotherhood test, and this one is the one of philanthropy. Let's have another brief glance at the screen. The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. I used to run a store with over 100 aquariums in it. I'm an aquarist. Born on the winter solstice, the beginning of the age of Aquarius. So thanks for tuning in and having a listen to me having a read. Philanthropy. When other certain days had passed, the guide led Jesus to the hall of mirth, a hall most richly furnished and replete with everything a carnal heart could wish. Doesn't make any difference. The choicest viands and the most delicious wines were on the boards, and maids in gay attire served all with grace and cheerfulness. And men and women richly clad were there, and they were wild with joy. They sipped from every cup of mirth. And Jesus watched the happy throng in silence for a time. Then a man in garb of sage came up and said, "Most happy is the man who, like the bee, can gather sweets from every flower. The wise man is the one who seeks for pleasure and can find it everywhere. At best, man's span of life on earth is short, and then he dies and goes, he knows not where. Then let us eat and drink and dance and sing and get the joys of life, for death comes on apace. It is but foolishness to spend a life for other men. Behold, all die and lie together in the grave, where none can know and none can show forth gratitude." But Jesus answered not. Upon the tinselled guests in all their sounds of mirth and gazed in silence, thought. And then among the guests he saw a man whose clothes were coarse, who showed in face and hands the lines of toil and want. The giddy throng found pleasure in abusing him. They jostled him against the wall and laughed at his discomfiture. And then a poor, frail woman came, who carried in her face and form the marks of sin and shame, and without mercy she was spit upon and jeered and driven from the hall. And then a little child with timid ways and hungry mien came and asked for just a morsel of their food, but she was driven out uncared for and unloved, and still the merry dance went on. And when the pleasure seekers urged that Jesus join them in their mirth, he said, "How could I seek for pleasure for myself while others are in want? How can you think that while the children cry for bread, while those in haunts of sin call out for sympathy and love, that I can fill myself to full with the good things of life? I tell you, nay, we are all kin. Each one are a part of the great human heart. I cannot see myself apart from the poor man that you so scorned and crowded to the wall, nor from the one in female garb who came up from the haunts of vice to ask for sympathy and love, who was by you so ruthlessly pushed back into her den of sin, nor from that little child that you drove from your midst to suffer in the cold, bleak winds of night. I tell you, man, what you have done to these, my kindred, you have done unto me. You have insulted me in your own home. I cannot stay. I will go forth and find that child, that woman and that man, and give them help until my life's blood has all ebbed away." Excuse me a sec. I call it pleasure when I can help the helpless, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, and speak good words of cheer to those unloved, discouraged, and depressed. At this, what you call mirth is but a phantom of the night, but flashes of the fire of passion, painting pictures on the walls of time. And while the Logos spoke, the white-robed priest came in and said to him, "The council waits for you." Then Jesus stood again before the bar. Again no word was said. The Hierophant placed in his hands a scroll on which was written, "Philanthropy." And Jesus was a victor over selfish self. Interesting book, eh? All right, well, thank you. If you think the earth is flat, then you have no business with Jesus and God, because it is complete nonsense. You only have to look at God's great creation to see the sun set. Well, the sun doesn't set. The sun goes over yonder towards the west in a big circle, and it comes back again. And we can only see so far. So anyone who thinks we live on a spinning ball in outer space, you've been deceived by the great deceiver, the Lord of the Rings. Not nipple rings either. It's just hot here, so I'm trying to wear a decent shirt for a change. So anyone who believes we live on the spinning ball, your head has been full of spin, full of lies, and only the truth can set you free. We don't live on a spinning ball. The ground beneath our feet is not moving at 1,000 miles per hour. We're not going around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour. You can clearly see high clouds in the sky after sunset, illuminated by the great light of God. That's correct, because the sun illuminates the atmosphere, and the clouds are in the atmosphere. So as the cloud recedes, the various noble gases start to change colour as it gets further away. And so you see different shades of light. And yeah, they illuminate the bottom of clouds, because that's the dusk colours we get as the sun moves away. And then in the morning, it does the opposite and comes back again. So saying that high clouds, if a high cloud's on the back of a wobbly boost, said somebody. Doesn't bother me, mate. Yeah, if we're on a friggin' spinning ball, as soon as the sun goes behind the horizon, it should be total darkness, because the clouds are on the other side. Being up higher on a ball means you're further away from the sun, not closer to it. You put the sun and the moon in the sky for seasons, lights and signs. Exactly. He didn't say you put the spinning ball in the sky to go around the sun, did he? You friggin' moron. Sky fly bry. God. Earth is obviously stationary. Water is obviously level. Earth is obviously that which is above water level. Sun and moon go around above us to give us our seasons, how we measure time. That is correct. But worshipping the sun as God is part of the great deception. That's the Lucifer rebellion. You have to get it together and realize that the infinite Mother Earth gives us everything. She is the one who we breathe in for life. You try to stop breathing for a moment, see what happens. You run out of her precious fluids, you dehydrate, death comes to you. She is the giver of life. The sun is the father, the powerhouse in the womb that we live upon. So I don't know where you got your ideas from, but I'm going on to the 5th chapter of, hang on. No, yeah, the 5th one is heroism. Absolutely. All the luminaries move as one, except for the sun, moon, and wandering stars, around whom we name the days of the week. Oh, take it easy, Sandra. I'm not sure when this non sequitur show is going to start, but I'm holding out for it. It's 11:15 a.m. here now, so happy days. Chapter of heroism, or the test of. The sacred temple groves are rich in statues, monuments, and shrines. Here Jesus loved to walk and meditate. And after he had conquered self, he walked with nature in these groves for 40 days. And then the guide took chains and bound him hand and foot, and then cast him to a den of hungry beasts, of unclean birds and creeping things. The den was dark as night. The wild beasts howled, the birds in fury screamed, the reptiles hissed. And Jesus said, "Who was it that did bind me thus? Why did I meekly sit to be bound down with chains? I tell you, none has power to bind a human soul. Of what are fetters made?" And in his might he rose, and what he thought were chains were only worthless cords that parted at his touch. And then he laughed and said, "The chains that bind men to the carcasses of earth are forged in fancy's shop, are made of air and welded in illusion's fires. If man will stand erect and use the power of will, his chains will fall like worthless rags. For will and faith are stronger than the stoutest chains that men have ever made." And Jesus stood erect among the hungry beasts and birds and said, "What is this darkness that envelops me? 'Tis but the absence of light. And what is light? 'Tis but the breath of God vibrating in the rhythm of rapid thought." And then he said, "Let there be light." And with a mighty will he stirred the ethers up, and their vibrations reached the plane of light, and there was light. The darkness of that den of night became the brightness of a newborn day. And then he looked to see the beasts and birds and creeping things. Lo, they were not. And Jesus said, "Of what are souls afraid? Fear is the chariot in which man rides to death. And when he finds himself within the chamber of the dead, he learns that he has been deceived. His chariot was a myth, and death a fancy child. But some day all man's lessons will be learned, and from the den of unclean beasts and birds and creeping things he will arise to walk in light." And Jesus saw a ladder made of gold, on which he climbed, and at the top the white-robed priest awaited him. Again he stood before the council bar. Again no word was said. Again the Hierophant reached forth his hand to bless. He placed in Jesus' hand another scroll, and on this one was written, "Heroism." The Logos had encountered fear and all his phantom host, and in the conflict he achieved the victory. Part 6. He passes the sixth brotherhood test and receives the sixth degree, love divine. In all the land there was no place more grandly furnished than the beauty parlours of the Temple of the Sun. Few students ever entered these rich rooms. The priests regarded them with awe and called them halls of mysteries. When Jesus had attained the victory over fear, he gained the right to enter there. The guide led on the way, and after passing many richly furnished rooms, they reached the Hall of Harmony, and here was Jesus left alone. Among the instruments of music was a harpsichord, and Jesus sat in thoughtful mood inspecting it, when quietly a maiden of entrancing beauty came into the hall. She did not seem to notice Jesus as he sat and mused, so busy with his thoughts. She found her place beside the harpsichord. She touched the chords most gently, and she sang the songs of Israel. And Jesus was entranced. Such beauty he had never seen, such music he had never heard. The maiden sang her songs. She did not seem to know that anyone was near. She went her way. And Jesus, talking with himself, said out, "What is the meaning of this incident? I did not know that such entrancing beauty and such queen-like loveliness were ever found among the sons of men. I did not know that voice of angel ever graced a human form, or that seraphic music ever came from human lips." For days he sat entranced. The current of his thoughts was changed. He thought of nothing but the singer and her songs. He longed to see her once again, and after certain days she came. She spoke and laid her hand upon his head. Her touch thrilled all his soul, and for the time forgotten was the work that he was sent to do. Few were the words the maiden said. She went her way, but then the heart of Jesus had been touched. A love flame had been kindled in his soul, and he was brought to face the sorest trial of his life. He could not sleep nor eat. Thoughts of the maiden came, they would not go. His carnal nature called aloud for her companionship. And then he said, Lo, I have conquered every foe that I have met. Shall I now be conquered by this carnal love? My Father sent me here to show the power of love divine, that love that reaches every living thing. Shall this pure universal love be all absorbed by carnal love? Shall I forget all creatures else and lose my life in this fair maiden, though she is the highest type of beauty, purity, and love? Into its very depths his soul was stirred, and long he wrestled with this angel idol of his heart. But when the day was almost lost, his higher egos rose in might. He found himself again, and then he said, although my heart shall break, I will not fail in this my hardest task. I will be victor over carnal love. And when again the maiden came, she offered him her hand and said, fair one, your very presence thrills me with delight. Your voice is benediction to my soul. My human self would fly with you and be contented in your love. But all the world is craving for love that I have come to manifest. I must then bid you go, but we will meet again. Our ways on earth will not be cast apart. I see you in the hurrying throngs of earth as minister of love. I hear your voice in song that wins the hearts of men to better things. And then in sorrow and in tears the maiden went away, and Jesus was again alone. And instantly the great bells of the temple rang. The singers sang a new song. The grotto blazed with light. The Hierophant himself appeared and said, all hail, triumphant Logos, hail. The conqueror of carnal love stands on the heights. And then he placed in Jesus' hands a scroll on which was written, love divine. Together they passed from the grotto of the beautiful. In the banquet hall a feast was served, and Jesus was the honoured guest. So, I don't know if I'm... Let's just carry on, shall we? Jesus becomes a private pupil of the Hierophant and is taught the mysteries of Egypt. In passing the seventh test, he works in the chamber of the dead. The senior course of study now was opened up, and Jesus entered and became a pupil of the Hierophant. He learned the secrets of the mystic lore of Egypt land, the mysteries of life and death, and of the worlds beyond the circle of the sun. When he had finished all the studies of the senior course, he went into the chamber of the dead, that he might learn the ancient methods of preserving from decay the bodies of the dead. Here he wrought. And carriers brought the body of a widow's only son to be embalmed. The weeping mother followed close, her grief was great. And Jesus said, good woman, dry your tears. You follow but an empty house. Your son is in it not. You weep because your son is dead. Death is a cruel word. Your son can never die. He had a task assigned to do in this garb of flesh. He came, he did his work, and then he laid the flesh aside. He did not need it more. Beyond your human sight, he has another work to do, and he will do it well, and then pass on to other tasks, and by, he'll attain the crown of perfect life. And what your son has done, and what yet must do, we all must do. Now, if you harbour grief, and give your sorrows vent, they will grow greater every day. They will absorb your very life until at last you'll be naught but grief, wet down with bitter tears. Instead of helping him, you grieve your son by your deep grief. He seeks your solace now as he's ever done. He's glad when you are glad, he's saddened when you grieve. Go bury deep your woes and smile at grief, and lose yourself in helping others dry their tears. With duty done comes happiness and joy, and gladness cheers the hearts of those who have passed on. The weeping woman turned and went away to find a happiness in helpfulness, to bury deep her sorrows in a ministry of joy. Then other carriers came and brought the body of her mother to the chamber of the dead, and just one mourner followed, she a girl of 10 years. And as the cortege neared the door, the child observed a wounded bird in sore distress. A cruel hunter's dart had pierced its breast, and she left following the dead, and she went to help the living bird. With tenderness and love. This one gets me every time too. With tenderness and love, she folded to her breast the wounded bird, and then hurried to her place. And Jesus said to her, why did you leave your dead to save a wounded bird? The maiden said, this lifeless body needs no help from me, but I can help while life still is. My mother taught me this. My mother taught that grief and selfish love and hopes and fears are but reflexes from the lower self. That what we sense are but small waves upon the rolling billows of a life. These all will pass away. They are unreal. Tears flow from the hearts of flesh. The spirit never weeps, and I am longing for the day when I will walk in light, where tears are wiped away. My mother taught that all emotions are the sprays that rise from human loves and hopes and fears, that perfect bliss cannot be ours till we have conquered these. And in the presence of that child did Jesus bow his head in reverence. He said, "For days and months and years, I've sought to learn this highest truth that man can learn on earth. And here a child, fresh brought to earth, has told it all in one short breath." No wonder David said, "O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength." Then he laid his hand upon the maiden's head and said, "I'm sure the blessings of my Father God will rest upon you, child, forevermore." So the work of Jesus in the chamber of the dead was done, and in the temple purple room he stood before the Hierophant, and he was clothed in purple robes, and all the brothers stood. The Hierophant arose and said, "This is a royal day for all the hosts of Israel. In honor of their chosen son, we celebrate the great Passover feast." And then he said to Jesus, "Brother man, most excellent of men, in all the temple tests you have won out. 6 times before the bar of right you have been judged. 6 times you received the highest honors man can give. And now you stand prepared to take the last degree. Upon your brow I place this diadem, and in the great lodge of the heavens of earth you are the Christ. This is your great Passover rite. You are a neophyte no more, but now a mastermind. Now, man can do no more, but God himself will speak, and will confirm your title and degree. Go on your way, for you must preach the gospel of goodwill to man and peace on earth, must open up the prison doors and set the captives free." And while the Hierophant yet spoke, the temple bells rang out. A pure white dove descended from above and sat on Jesus' head. And then a voice that shook the very temple said, "This is the Christ." And every living creature said, "Amen." The great doors of the temple swung ajar. The Logos journeyed on his way, a conqueror. "47. Just reading some of the chats now. I found that really interesting that it said the world's beyond the circle of the sun. Wow. How interesting is that? We've all seen the map that was found in the Japanese temple, the ancient map showing 33 continents. The number 33 comes up a lot. I mean, they reckon that Jesus was taken out by the Jews when he was 33 years old. 33 degrees is what the Freemasons reach. Very interesting. You tell him, wobbly boost. I don't even know who you are, Skyfly, bro. I've never seen you across anywhere before, but it's good that you're joining in. As Jesus said, you can scatter seeds everywhere, and if they fall on fertile soil, they bear fruit. But what he was referring to is when they reach a fertile mind that is open to wisdom and truth. The life of Brian, eh? But if your mind is choked full of weeds, which is basically lies and spin and indoctrination, brainwashing, all the television programming that we've all been um, given throughout our lives, from childhood, from infancy. You know, it's not easy to overcome your indoctrination. And basically, you have to unlearn what you've learned, empty your mind. And that is where, when I was about 17, I started learning about Buddhism to empty my head of all the indoctrination I'd received. And that is how I came to know the truth of Jesus's real teachings. And, truth hides in the strangest places. What do you retain when you can't resist carnal love? I understand, the Elohim, but the angel said no L. So there is that. It's really only 25 letters in the alphabet because the angel said no L. Yeah, I mean, there's been various beings, spiritual beings, I think, who have lived amongst us at times, who've taken on the garb of being a god, and in so doing, have indoctrinated the masses. Maybe it is, maybe God does appear in flesh from time to time and comes to teach us. I haven't even read the Book of Enoch, so I wouldn't know about that. Yeah, but when you're scattering seeds, it's pretty much what you're doing when you're teaching people. You're spreading the truth of the wisdom that you've attained over your years through trial and error. And if they fall on fertile soil, they bear fruit. And that, they say that a true leader doesn't have followers; he creates more leaders. So, yeah, well, we're all virgins once. Yeah, well, that's probably a good place to keep it, Mr. Tom Tom. Apparently, you gain more masculine energy if you keep it within. I wouldn't know. Mine seems to fall out a bit too often. But all I'm saying is I can't wait to get to this debate before I drink too much and get to this wanker who calls himself Fight the Flat Earth. I mean, why would you fight that which is obviously true? Because you're indoctrinated, because you haven't learned for yourself how to think for yourself, how to investigate the truth, and basically interpret all the knowledge that is available to you and say, well, where is evidence of the spinning ball? Composite pictures, they don't add up. Water has to be contained. How does that work on a spinning ball? How does water even exist in outer space? Like if outer space is a vacuum and water boils in a vacuum, then Earth would never have formed an atmosphere. All the water would have just instantly dissipated back in the early days after the Big Bang, just proving how much scientism is full of shit, and so is indoctrination full of shit. Make us believe in lies, which makes us easier to control, makes us good little slaves, and therefore compliant, easier to control. And we do what we're told, we go to work, free range slaves. At least back in the day, the Egyptians provided the housing and the food and the clothing. These days, we have to do it all for ourselves. We're taxed. We're just taxed everywhere. And that's not freedom. We didn't come here to be slaves to some elite. But the elite, the ones who have controlled our minds through the universities, through the churches, who've controlled us all, people think they're smart because they've been educated. They're just indoctrinated, and they can repeat the lies they're told, but they can't prove a single one of them. So only the truth sets you free, and you find the truth in nature. So that's how I've been spending my life. I didn't go to a university for indoctrination. So no, I don't have degrees of learning. I have full knowledge by learning from every school of life, the true school of life. I can tell a little story. How one time I was walking to the beach when I was living in a caravan down at Crosby's Caravan Park in Byron Bay, just across from the golf course. I'd go there regularly after I'd been cleaning pubs at 4 a.m. in the morning, jump on the push bike sometimes, or other times just walk, take my avocado and a bottle of water. That's all I needed. And as I was walking down past the sewage treatment plant, which was teeming with bird life, which I admired all the time. We have such beautiful bird life here in Australia. Big, awesome pelicans, sacred ibis, royal spoonbill, seagulls. We have it all. And as I was walking down, I had this powerful thought, and I said telepathically, God, give me a sign of your existence. I'd never done such a thing before, and I thought, I'm not being blasphemous here. I'm actually asking in a nice, peaceful way. I just want to see a sign that you're real. And lo and behold, for the first time ever, I kid you not, 3 big pelicans came and they just circled around me. Not once, not twice, 3 times. And I was just like, when you ask for a sign, God gives you a sign. God is in every living thing. And then when I went down to the beach, I decided, which way will I walk? This way, that way. I'll just go that way today. I came to a river mouth, Tallows Creek, and here's the youngest of the pelicans, the smaller one, came and landed over yonder, and it allowed me to walk right up to it, like to the point where I could just walk up and touch it. And it was just looking at me in the eye with the wisdom that you cannot escape when you understand nature and you appreciate the wisdom and telepathic communication that comes from living things. This bird was telling me in no uncertain terms that what we are doing, we are living. We are the living children of God. This is, we're feeding in shit. No, they weren't feeding in shit, mate. Pelicans are the most awesome creatures. I'll tell you one thing. I've never seen a dead pelican in my life. I've seen all kinds of dead animals, that get killed all the time. Never seen a dead pelican. Maybe they're trying to teach us something, that we are entitled to eternal life when we reach out to God. So I was given a sign that is unmistakable. The birds don't eat the shit, mate. And even if they did, they're just transforming it into a higher vibration. The fish eat it. The birds eat the fish. Circle of life, mate. So, yeah, I moved to the easternmost point of the Australian mainland back in the early 90s. It's called Cape Byron or Byron Bay. And it, to me, was a very spiritual and sacred place. And was full of all these alternative stores, places with the incense burning and sarongs and cones and books. I was always into books. One day I walked into a bookstore, my favourite bookstore, because I just received my dole, and I was looking for a book. I said, I'm going to find a book here. And while I'm looking through, there was a lady customer talking to the bloke behind the counter. They were having a conversation. And the conversation was going along the lines, it started getting a little bit heated, and they said, what is love? And then they said, well, what is unconditional love? And the moment they said that, I just selected the book, and it was this one, and I placed it in front of them. And they looked at it, and they looked at me, and they just both silenced. Christ is unconditional love. And when you find Christ within yourself, you can be the living word of the living God and be unconditional love. Spread the truth wherever you go. Don't walk in fear. Don't be afraid to speak the truth. And don't be afraid of indoctrinated morons who think they know it because they've been told it, but they don't know it within. Only the truth can set you free. Once you're free to live forever. Eternal life. If you eat dead food, you are what you eat. You're inviting death into your holy temple. If you eat living food, you're putting life in. The life, which is the light from the sun. Fruit, for example, a tree collects the light of God in its leaves, it absorbs it, it takes the shit out of the ground, and it filters it through its stems, its limbs, and it produces little pockets of perfect food. All right. I'm not a fan of the actual Bible, but the Bible itself does say that seed-bearing fruits and green leaf herbs are to be our meat. Me eat. Now, there's a lot of truth in words, and words are swords. What you are, what you eat. Okay, if you want to be the living word of God, don't eat dead flesh. Even in the Essene Gospel, which I have got on my channel, I've actually read the entire Essene Gospel out loud in 3 different parts. Jesus says, touch not that which frost or fire has touched, or eat not that, which means basically cooked or frozen foods have had the life force killed within them, and so you're just eating dead stuff. So while it may fill your belly and your carnal appetite, living food is far better. So eat the garnish and leave the flesh alone. Byron Shire is very high spiritual energy. Yes. Instruments that can measure 93 miles. I know, what a joke, right? 93 million miles. I would like to know how anybody could measure that. I mean, we all know how density and buoyancy works, but the more dense air is lower down. So a barometer, for example, works at ground level, and they think they can measure height by going higher. I think they're kidding themselves that they're actually not quite as high as they think they were. That's why I'm sort of coming to the conclusion that even aeroplanes aren't flying nearly as high as they think they are, because nobody can tell me how they actually measure how high they are. And because waves need a medium to propagate through, and air is dense, they calibrate their instruments in this much density of air, but as you go up in the lower air pressure, obviously the instruments are going to react differently, because it is lower air pressure, and it's going to give you a false reading. It's not a god, it's just a sacred being. It's just an indication of what we're all supposed to be. We're all meant to come to enlightenment. That's why we're here. That's why we go through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to reach enlightenment. And it's good to do it while you're still alive, because otherwise then you have to come back and start again from being a baby. And often those first 2 years of being a baby, you forget everything. And then you sort of start getting indoctrinated into human ways again. And then you have to unlearn it all and then relearn who you were supposed to become. When we reach this golden age of enlightenment, we'll all be looking like this dude here. We'll all spread the light everywhere we go. A good one, Wobbly. Asking the dude last night, if your focal length for an object 4 miles away is 1,200 millimeters, then why is your focal length for Mars not 13.5 million times longer? No. Once you focus on pretty much the horizon, you can focus on everything in the sky. So it's 11:45. I'm assuming the non sequitur show will start soon. I should open up another window, hey. not window. You know the other thing. You know what I reckon? I reckon we once lived in giant trees. And these giant trees reached up to the stars. They were the real Christmas tree decorations, the actual orbs around us who we lived amongst. And the sun, at that height, never set. So we lived in eternal sunlight. And after the giants came and destroyed everything, cut down all the giant trees, all the way up to the moon, mate, the oxygen levels dropped dramatically. So that's how we stopped living for so long. Obviously, we did something to piss them off, right? Because they came and chopped down all the trees. A lot of them got petrified. That's how we have these messes these days. And most mountains are the crumbling ruins of giant trees. You can see these massive trunks. You know, they reached all the way to heaven. That's where we used to live. But we fell. We came down from the trees. We still talk about that. And what the giants did with all their machinery and shit that they had is that they strip mined this place we now know as the Grand Canyon, and they got all the silica and made the giant bauble filled full of helium or perhaps hydrogen, and they stuck it up there in the sky, and it's called the moon, and it's there to mock us and say, this is where you used to live, you puny humans, but you pissed us off for one reason or another, and this is here to mock you and tease you, and you'll never get back to heaven until you stop living in sin, you stop killing, you stop eating dead animals, you stop eating their babies' food, you stop eating, you know, aborted chicken fetuses and so forth. Once you stop doing that, you'll start to regrow the living Mother Earth and regrow the big trees again, and we can eventually reach heaven. That's how we make heaven on earth. So I'm not saying it's true, it's just a theory that I'm working on. And it rings true for me at the moment. Maybe one day it will change. But I reckon the sea levels have always been rising. If you consider Gondwana land, it was once, you know, New Guinea and Tasmania were part of the Australian mainland. Well, sea level is always rising, and the way the land survives is by absorbing sunlight from the giver of life into our plants, which turn to mulch, which turn to soil, so the living earth keeps growing higher and higher. And that's how we live in harmony with nature. It's just how it is. The kingdom of heaven is like a tiny mustard seed that keeps on growing and growing and growing. We're here as the caretakers. We're the gardeners, the earthians, the lovers of all things natural and organic. And what is sand? I think sand is actually the ground up ruins of what were once living things. When things die and petrify, they turn to stone. And then when they get churned by the ocean over thousands of years, that's how they become sand. Absolutely. I mean, this earth is way, way older than we've been told. These flat earth creationists or young earth creationists, whoever they are, they're also indoctrinated fools. When you really look at the truth, you'll find that time never was, that man was not. We've always existed. Life has always existed. It is endless, timeless, infinite. I'm going to hide that one, Mr. Shea. Sorry. Hide. Watches dwarf porn. How rude. Well, I've done a lot of walking on the beach over the years. I've done a shitload of it. And what I do is I pick up attractive, shiny pebbles off the beach and I look at them and I think, how in the heck has this been created? If rocks are just sediment settling and then over years compressed and petrified to stone, all rocks should be basically made of layers. But I can find the most amazing rocks that show what look to be like veins running through them, what look to be like actual parts of a once living creature. And I think that's what they are. They're all petrified remains of the dead. We're living upon the bones of what was once living. Shell Beach, yeah. Mm, sand is multiple things. I mean, as I say, for the last 40 odd years of my life, I've been looking at the sand. I've been studying it, looking at sand creatures, climbing headlands, looking at the ocean, understanding the tides, watching the moon, watching everything. And sand is a whole combination of all different things, but it's basically petrified remains of once living beings, bits of shell. They were also once living beings. The world is an amazing place. If you ever watched octopus in their native environment, they are most amazing creatures. They just move along with 8 legs. Each one of them can change just like a chameleon to blend in with its environment as they're moving. So they're virtually invisible. You have to really look to actually see them. What an amazing creature. They've got like 3 hearts. Um, they've got no bones. They just have this one shell inside their mouth. There are creatures out there amongst us who are so much more enlightened than we could ever possibly be because they're living in the now, in the moment. They're not living in these caves full of mod cons and so forth. Spend more time out in nature and observe. Yeah, well, my house was constructed. We live within a constructed, basically, cave, but we once lived in giant trees. I love climbing trees. Get out there in the highest branches and swing in the breeze and look out across the ocean. We live on the most beautiful construction possible. We have to get out and appreciate the beauty of nature and nothing to get hung about. Sounds like a strawberry field forever. Yeah, I think some parts of Earth are made by volcanic activity, but I think that's only as a result of the destruction. When you look at our Earth, once upon a time, all the continents fit together like a perfect yolk of an egg. And great cataclysms have occurred since. And I believe if we look into what is original sin, we will find that Eve, where the word evening comes from, and we had our first son, Set. Son is killed by Set. That she was in the garden of Eden, the paradise, and she was watching a snake. And a snake, doing what snakes do, was going about, and it found this nest of eggs, and it was swallowing them before slithering off back through the reeds or whatever it does. And Eve says to her man, Adam, says, look at this snake devouring eggs. Now, eggs, this is where Mother Goose and everything comes from. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. So on the wall means between life and death. We're told, destroy not that which God has created. So Eve's argument was, well, if the lowly snake can get away with it and God doesn't punish the snake, then surely it is okay for us to eat it. Now, we've got all the fruits of the trees and vines and all the herbs and everything we could ever want. We live in peace and harmony for thousands of years. But here she watches a snake do this and says, well, why can't we eat that? And eggs are kind of like a fruit, but they're perfect. So they're a forbidden fruit because within them contains life, not a seed which grows like a living plant. It was the original sin. And so what they did is they decided, well, yeah, we can eat the egg if the snake doesn't get punished. Wasn't a talking snake. Then we can also eat that. And so when they did, of course, they couldn't swallow a whole goose egg. It was too big. So they cracked it and they drank it. And what it did is it created the first sense of doing something naughty. You know, where when you do something you know you shouldn't, it gives you a bit of a buzz. You get a rise out of it. And because they thought they were doing this sort of against God's will, it aroused them fully. And so they started having it on right then and there. Mother Goose comes back from having a swim around in the feed, has a look at her nest, and ordinarily, had the snake taken them and disappeared, she wouldn't have noticed a thing. She was like, oh, thought I had more eggs than that, but oh well. But then she saw the humans, broken eggshells, and they were caught with egg on their face. And she got furious. She got furious. And if have you ever seen a goose attacking a human being, you don't want to be the victim of that. Big wings, big beak. She drove them from the Garden of Eden, from paradise. And when they came outside and were standing naked under the sun, they suddenly felt ashamed for what they had done. And in their shame, they went to hide their nakedness. And as a result of that fornication, when they first became unclean by dirtying their pure bodies with sin of eating forbidden fruit, that son grew up to be the first man to kill his own brother. And we are the descendants of those original sinners. And so the only way we can overcome original sin is to stop sinning, to stop eating death, stop putrefying what should be your pure body with living foods, and return back to the mother's angels, and she will forgive us. Anyway, I've done enough talking for now. I'm going to go and take a quick breather, and I'll see you on the Non Sequitur show. Take care. Peace, love, and abundance for all. Cheers. Let's see if I can stop this now. I can never get out of these things. Barack Obama makes an appearance. I got no idea how to close this off apart from closing the window. So I guess that's what I'm going to do. Bye. Hope I don't lose it altogether. Hope it's still saved. Maybe if I hit that little icon. No. Ooh. Continue allowing to access. Okay, that's all well and good. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But technology, press the red hang up phone. I ain't got a red hang up phone. I'm on the green phone, man. Straight to the moon. No time delay. All right, I'm just going to close this window and hope for the best. Changes you made may not be saved. Ah, well, where's my red hang up phone then? It's ridiculous. Oh, yeah, Pete. I will fuck off, mate. When I'm good and ready. Participants, how can I kick you out? No. Technology, I love it.